You're listening to a story on the Volve Late channel. The following content is entirely fictional and a product of imagination and created for entertainment purposes only. Enjoy the story. Barely using a bit of wit, the fake heiress was already in jail. Ever since I was a child, I had a recurring dream always the same. In that dream, I was just a side character in a farce of real and fake heiresses. Because of my naive clinging to family affection, because I wanted to win back my family, I resorted to all sorts of means. I kept going head-to-head with the fake heiress, but only ended up making myself a laughingstock. In the end, I died miserably in a foreign land, abandoned by everyone. When I woke from those dreams, I was half skeptical, half convinced. But over the years, no so-called family ever came looking for me. I thought I had escaped the nightmare, gotten into university, and was finally starting a new life. But right before the holidays, they showed up. When a group of elegantly dressed, clearly distinguished people came looking for me, I happened to be wearing a floral apron, carefully boxing a cream cake for a customer. Just as I picked up the cake and hadn't even steadied myself, I was suddenly pulled into a tight hug, and a tearful cry echoed in my ear. "My daughter, my poor child, you've suffered so much. I've finally found you." In that instant, all eyes within a 3-meter radius turned to me. The atmosphere turned melodramatic in a flash. The other customers probably imagined some dramatic story like a poor girl separated from her family for years is finally found by her wealthy biological parents. I froze for a moment, looked down at the woman clinging to me like a koala, and realized this wasn't the place for an explanation. So I calmly led the entire group into the manager's office. After rotating my sore arm from that bone-crushing hug, I politely asked, "Could you all explain what's going on?" The woman was crying too hard to speak, so the middle-aged man beside her took over. His aura was overwhelming just standing there. He looked like the walking cover of a finance magazine. And so I was told a classic melodramatic tale baby swapping. A greedy nanny had secretly switched her own child with the employer's daughter. Over a decade later, by some twist of fate, the wealthy family finally found their real daughter. Judging from how they acted, it wasn't hard to guess I was the unlucky princess who had been swapped. And if I was the real princess, of course, there had to be a fake one. As soon as that thought hit, my eyes involuntarily glanced at the girl standing nearby. She wore a pristine white dress, had a delicate frame, a haggard, pitiful face clearly meant to provoke sympathy. She gently wiped tears from the woman who had just been hugging me, her face filled with concern and heartbreak. Sensing my gaze, she smiled sweetly and said in a soft, breezy voice, "Sister, please help comfort Mom. Her health has never been good. If she keeps crying, she might fall ill." In that moment, the stench of artificial sweetness filled the room. I see now, a classic mean girl. The woman clutched my hand tightly, rubbing it over and over, tears falling like rain. "It's all my fault. I promise I'll make it up to you." A mountain of money suddenly landing on me. Who would be foolish enough to refuse? Just like that, I, a so-called burden to the Chen family, living under the name Chen Jiaodi, woke up one day transformed into the true heiress of the Shen Corporation. My name was now Shen Qinglan. A luxury car slowly pulled up in front of the Shen family estate. Madame Shen held my hand enthusiastically and showed me around every corner of the mansion, from the rose garden, koi pond, to the perfectly manicured lawn. Meanwhile, Shen Qiao stood elegantly to the side, chiming in occasionally while subtly flaunting her lavish lifestyle. Staring at a towering fountain and listening to tales of wealth I'd never imagined, I couldn't help but feel overwhelmed. No wonder so many long-lost heiresses end up with psychological issues. Anyone would feel a bit resentful in this situation. Even someone as magnanimous as me nearly couldn't hide the expression on my face. Thankfully, I quickly reined in my emotions and kept a calm demeanor. It wasn't until everyone was seated in the living room that Shen Qiao sweetly clung to Madame Shen's arm, her soft voice ringing out, "This is wonderful. I've always wished for an older sister to protect me. I never thought that wish would actually come true. Having an older sister is the best." Oh dear, Mom, we were in such a rush we didn't have time to get any clothes tailored for her. Sis, if you don't mind, you can wear my clothes for now. A mocking laugh suddenly cut through the air. Sure, but even if you put on a ball gown, you still won't turn into Cinderella. Well, let me first give a quick rundown of the Shen family members. I have two older brothers, and one younger brother. The one who just threw shade at me was the youngest of the Shen family, a textbook rebellious teenager. You shouldn't say that, she's been through a lot, Shen Qiao said gently, clutching the hem of her skirt, her voice as sweet as syrup, trying to play peacemaker. The radar in my head instantly lit up with warning signs. So this is the classic local dominance display. If this were a typical drama, I should probably roll up my sleeves to reveal scars from years of hardship, then cry every day, pouring out tragic stories to earn pity from the Shen family. But I'm not the kind of heiress who follows tired tropes. Ever since I was young, I've had a strange recurring dream. In the dream, I returned to the Shen family and devoted myself like a loyal dog to so-called familial love. And the result, I became a joke, was hated and discarded, and died miserably in some dark alleyway. I woke from that dream furious, so I learned my lesson when facing this beloved family of mine. The only way not to suffer is to never bow my head. Anyone who dares to mess with me, I'll deal with them on the spot. Even though the details in the dream weren't crystal clear, they were enough to make me suspicious about my background. If it hadn't been for certain limitations, I would have sought them out long ago instead of waiting for them to find me. I've managed to grow up in one piece. What makes them think I'm some damsel they can bully? Do I look like I'm made of clay? I had no desire to waste more time on this melodramatic script. I raised my hand and cut through Shen Qiao's annoyingly sugary monologue. First of all, shut up. Let me speak. I then turned to look directly at the youngest Shen, giving him a gentle smile, but my tone was sharp with authority. Little brother, there's something wrong with what you just said. Let me correct it. I'm your biological sister. I share blood ties with everyone in this room except Shen Qiao. That's been confirmed by the law, with official documents to prove it. Under his stunned gaze, I slowly raised my hand and pointed straight at Shen Qiao. I enunciated each word clearly. She's the fake. Or to put it more bluntly, an inferior knockoff. So maybe you should think carefully between me and her. Who's the real princess here? The kid froze, mouth opening and closing like a goldfish, utterly confused and flustered. Please, trying to play mind games with me, he's way out of his league. The atmosphere instantly froze, just as I expected. I stood up, opened my oversized suitcase, and pulled out a stack of thick books. I slammed them down onto the coffee table and lined them up neatly. This whole showdown between the real and the fake heiress? I'm the real one, the fake one. She's been basking in your love her whole life. What kind of twisted reality show is this? As the head of the Shen family, Mr. Shen cleared his throat and finally spoke up. Qing Lan, what exactly are you doing? I shrugged casually. Oh, nothing really. Just showing off my hobby, reading novels in my spare time. Doesn't this entire situation between me and this little weasel between me and Shen Qiao look exactly like something ripped out of one of these books? The moment I said that, Shen Qiao's eyes welled up with tears. Her body trembled like she had just been mortally wounded. Her voice was soft as silk. Sister, it's all my fault. I know I've wronged you, but it wasn't something I could control. I was just a baby back then. She had lived in this house for over a decade and was, until recently, considered the family's only daughter. Naturally, Madame Shen still felt deeply attached. She immediately pulled Shen Qiao into her arms, her tone gentle. That's right, Qing Lan, these past few days, Qiao hasn't been eating or sleeping well. She's constantly racked with guilt. Shen Qiao leaned into Madame Shen's embrace, perfectly portraying a pitiful, fragile beauty. Yet she still found time to sneak a glance at me, her lips slightly curled in smug satisfaction. I nearly laughed out loud. Did she think I came back here just to play a catty drama game with her? I've got better things to do, like focus on my studies. I don't have time to waste arguing over nonsense. As I calmly passed a book to each family member, I continued speaking, voice as even as ever. She can't eat or sleep. Well, that's to be expected. If she were eating well and sleeping like a baby, it'd only mean one of two things: either her skin is too thick, or she's got a genetic defect. After handing out the books just enough for each person to get one, I smiled, my voice calm and sincere. I've always believed that fiction and reality reflect one another. So I hope all of you will read these carefully, memorize every scheme and trick in them. That way, we won't waste each other's precious time. The room fell completely silent. If any of you are hoping that I'll treat Shen Qiao like a real sister, or expecting me to be forgiving about this whole situation, let me save you the trouble. Don't even dream about it. If you're capable of switching places with a beggar, letting them enjoy luxury while you suffer in misery for years, and still treat them like family afterward, then sure, come lecture me about morality. Otherwise, spare me the hypocrisy. And let me remind you, all of you sitting here, whether you're first-generation billionaires or heirs of wealth that spans generations, I trust your values aren't that twisted. If a biological daughter comes home and is still treated worse than the daughter of a kidnapper or a thief, then I have every right to question your basic moral compass. And when that happens, don't blame me for changing how I see you. Silence, so silent you could hear a pin drop. The spark of defiance that had just lit up in Shen Qiao's eyes, I snuffed it out in an instant. Still smiling brightly, with not a trace of anger in my tone, I turned to Madame Shen and asked, "Mom, is there a room prepared for me? Is it smaller than Shen Qiao's? Well?" Madame Shen stammered, her words jumbled, unsure how to respond. Could she actually admit she'd given her biological daughter a room smaller than the one reserved for the fake heiress? Shen Qiao had always been treated like a precious gem in her hands. Even after learning the truth, Madame Shen couldn't bring herself to move her out of the room with the best view in the house. As I locked eyes with her, gaze unwavering, Madame Shen visibly tensed, terrified I'd follow up with something like, "Should we let the president move out for her too?" She tugged quietly on Mr. Shen's sleeve and whispered, "Say something." Dear Mr. Shen, thankfully, was a bit more grounded. His expression remained composed as he spoke in a calm voice, "It's all been a bit rushed today. For now, stay in the guest room. Tomorrow, I'll have the best room in the house prepared for you." I smiled. That was all I needed to hear. No need to drag things out. I pulled my suitcase behind me and headed straight for the guest room without another word. After I took a quick shower, a knock came at the door. Madame Shen's voice followed, laced with an attempt to please. "Xinglan, you must be hungry after that long trip. I had the staff prepare a full table of delicious dishes. Come see if anything suits your taste." At dinner, I took the seat to Mr. Shen's right. Madame Shen was overly attentive, constantly placing food into my bowl, while Shen Qiao, who had long grown used to that kind of pampering, sat off to the side with red-rimmed eyes, clearly eaten up by jealousy. I gave her a glance and calmly continued eating, waiting to see what stunt she'd try to pull. But surprisingly, the first move didn't come from her. Instead, it came from someone completely irrelevant. The Shen family's longtime kitchen steward, Liu Pan, suddenly spoke up. "Madam, the young miss has been crying quietly these past few days. She must be feeling awful. I just think it's not fair to put the blame for a past mistake onto an innocent child. Maybe he let his emotions get the better of him." Because, as he placed a bowl of soup on the table, the movement was a bit too forceful. Thud, a splash of broth leapt out and left a small, but very visible stain on the table. The next second, I did something no one saw coming. Without saying a word, I calmly reached over and swapped my bowl of soup with Mr. Shen's. The air tensed immediately. Madame Shen hurried to explain in a low voice, "Xinglan, your father and you are drinking the same soup. There is no need to switch." Shen Qiao was briefly startled by my action, but quickly regained her composure and responded in a gentle, graceful tone. Sister, doing something like that is really quite rude. In the future, if you're a guest at someone else's house, you should be more mindful. Otherwise, people might question the way the Shen family raised you. My youngest brother, the busiest observer at the dinner table, kept sneaking glances at my expression while subtly signaling to Shen Qiao to tone it down. Smart kid. He clearly knew the difference between a casual comment and a mean girl jab, and more importantly, who was safe to mess with and who wasn't. Mr. Shen, clearly wanting a peaceful family dinner, gave polite coughs to cut off Shen Qiao's performance. Qiao, just focus on eating. Let's not talk about other things right now. By this point, he was starting to realize that the supposedly obedient daughter he had raised might not be as sweet as she appeared. Resting my chin on one hand, I watched with mild amusement and replied in a relaxed tone, No. Me switching my bowl of soup has nothing to do with upbringing. I simply think the chef here happens to be one of Qiao's loyal fans. Did you hear what she just said, jumping in to defend her before any of the hosts even spoke? With someone so clearly biased against me, who's to say she didn't spit in my soup when no one was looking? I think a little caution on my part is more than reasonable, don't you? At that, the corners of Mr. Shen's mouth twitched slightly. He frowned, his tone turning a bit stiff. So? You swapped your bowl of soup with mine, daughter? Smiling sweetly, I picked up a piece of food and placed it carefully into his bowl, my voice full of filial piety. Dad, you've misunderstood me. You're the head of this household. If you hire someone like that, isn't it only fair you take responsibility for her actions? Liu Pan, clearly blessed with a flair for drama, jumped straight into character. She dabbed at her eyes with a napkin, her expression wounded, voice as soft as cotton. Sir, I've been a servant in this household for many years. I watched the young miss grow up. Seeing her suddenly treated coldly, I was just worried she'd take it too hard. That's why I spoke up for her. I never expected Miss Qinglan to think so poorly of me, even accuse me of tampering with her food. Not bad. She really did pick up a few tricks from Shen Qiao. Madame Shen frowned, clearly wanting to smooth things over. Qinglan, maybe you're overthinking this. But before she could finish, I calmly reached out and swapped Mr. Shen's bowl with hers. And just like that, the very same bowl of soup I had been suspicious of from the start now sat directly in front of Madame Shen. I narrowed my eyes and smiled, my tone light but dripping with implication. Then please, mother, drink up. No need to be polite. Mrs. Shen stared intently at the greasy film floating on the soup's surface. Her hand trembled ever so slightly. Drink it? She couldn't. I glanced at her frozen expression, as stiff as a wax figure. Under the table, I crossed my legs leisurely and remarked casually, From the outside, it really does look like our family is full of kindness, practically a charity household brimming with love and moral integrity. Very impressive. My youngest brother, who had been burying his face in his bowl, looked up at my words and asked instinctively, "What do you mean by that, sis?" I sighed deeply and replied with a solemn tone, "Little brother, think it through carefully. What happened to the nanny who swapped me all those years ago? What about the cook who dared speak rudely to me just now? Should we allow bad behavior and disrespect to go unpunished? Because if we do, what message does that send? That anyone can get away with anything. And let's talk about that person who was swapped in my place. Didn't she get a smooth red carpet rolled out for her into high society? As for me, well, it doesn't matter. I'll be married off eventually anyway. But the ones I truly pity are you and our brothers. Big brother, second brother, and you too. Just imagine it. One day you marry, have children, have a kid, someone swaps it, have another swap again. Fast forward 15 years, and boom, the family reunion is gonna be a total circus. I clicked my tongue and added, "Hey, maybe this is what they call a truly thriving lineage. I've even thought of the perfect sign to hang at our gate. Shen Family Charity and Welfare Home." Taking a sip of water, I added slowly, and really, if you look at it from a business perspective, it's not a bad deal. Raise one child, harvest two, no feeding, no watering. Isn't that the most profitable investment ever? Cough, cough. My eldest brother choked on his rice, PFFFT. Second brother actually spat out his drink. The two of them, like synchronized swimmers, frantically motioned for me to stop before things got any scarier. The atmosphere at the table had turned ice cold. That's when Shen Qiao started to panic. She struggled to stay composed and quickly spoke up on behalf of Liu Pan. Sis, please don't take it the wrong way. Ms. Liu was only speaking out of concern for me. She meant no harm to you. Double quotes. So we're pulling that I'm not wrong. I'm just pitiful card again. Shen Qiao, you're still too green. Liu Pan jumped in instantly, sliding into the role of the kind, innocent housemaid. She folded her hands in front of her stomach, her voice full of remorse. Miss Qiao is right, sir, madam. I have elderly parents to care for and children to raise. I would never dare go against Miss Qinglan. Whatever happened, I take full responsibility. Miss Qinglan, can you please forgive me just this once? Shen Qiao immediately echoed her, putting on a pitiful act. I know you've always resented me, sis, but please don't take it out on Ms. Liu. She didn't do anything wrong. I move out soon so you won't have to see me anymore. What are you saying? Move out? The Shen family can't afford to keep a child? Mrs. Shen instantly sensed something was off, and her soft heart just starting to harden melted again. She made a swift decision. Enough, Ms. Liu admitted her mistake, so let's move on. No more discussion, one simple sentence just like that. She tried to wrap everything up in a neat bow. I glanced at Liu Pan, still bowing her head in feigned guilt, then my eyes dropped to a small detail that irritated me. I rolled my eyes, unable to stop myself. If I truly held out hope for this cheap brand of mother-daughter affection, I'd probably die from sheer rage-induced hemorrhage. I let out a cold chuckle, the sound was sharp, and it instantly drew every gaze in the room toward me. Leaning back in my chair, I crossed my legs and relaxed, my tone leisurely yet razor-sharp. Apologize? Did she say a single word that actually counted as an apology? Every sentence was laced with sarcasm and aimed directly at me. Honestly, I'm starting to wonder, are you people really the heads of this household, or are you all just blind? Blind eyes, blind hearts. That line hit hard, maybe too hard. Madame Shen, who always tried her best to appear magnanimous, finally couldn't hold it in any longer. Qinglan, I know you're upset, and I'll make up for all the love you've missed out on these years. But you can't go around acting like a porcupine, stabbing everyone who gets close. I didn't give her the chance to finish that little lecture. I cut her off immediately. Mother, do you really not see it, or are you just pretending to be blind? What are you talking about, Qinglan? Her voice faltered, her expression stiffened. I was starting to get nervous already. You really didn't notice her eyes earlier? When she was crying in front of Dad, her gaze was practically glued to him like she was spinning silk threads with it. If I didn't know any better, I'd think she was his mistress. Tell me, Mom, are you protecting her like this because you personally invited her into her family? PFFT. Every single man at the dinner table spat out their drink in unison. Mr. Shen started coughing violently, face flushed red like he was choking to death. Madame Shen's expression immediately darkened. Her eyes, sharp as a lioness defending her territory, swept up and down Liu Pan's body like she was hunting for evidence of betrayal. Delighted to add fuel to the fire, I pointed casually, Mom, just look at her bracelet. She secretly made a matching couples set with Dad. I raised my finger toward Liu Pan's wrist. Earlier, she had folded her hands in front of her, and now a tiny braided rope bracelet peeked out extremely eye-catching. Mr. Shen yanked his own bracelet off like he was flicking a windshield wiper, tossing it straight onto the table. His voice was hoarse and panicked. There's nothing going on. I have absolutely nothing to do with her, sure, like anyone's buying that. After all, he was the head of the mighty Shen family, someone with immense power and status. If he wanted a mistress, there were countless high-quality candidates. Why the hell would he aim for a lowly housemaid? But Madame Shen's reaction was even quicker than lightning. She grabbed Liu Pan's wrist and yanked the bracelet off despite her protests. It was clearly handmade, the weave a bit rough, but the kicker was the little charm on it. Inside the pendant, in delicate engraving, were the initials of Mr. Shen, polished to a brilliant shine. Obviously, this wasn't just some casual accessory, it was cared for, cherished. Madame Shen looked like she'd just swallowed a live cockroach. She had long suspected something was off. On several occasions, she'd caught Liu Pan loitering outside Mr. Shen's study late at night. The excuse, "Sir has been working hard, I brought him some tonic." Back then, Shen Qiao had even laughed at her for being paranoid, saying Liu Pan wasn't that kind of person. But now, looking back, Madame Shen slowly turned her head. Her eyes, now as sharp as knives, locked onto Shen Qiao, who was completely frozen, clueless about what was happening. Qiao trembled, covering her mouth with both hands. Tears welled up in her eyes and rolled down instantly. Wow, impressive speed. When it came to playing the innocent, no one could crayon Q like her. Whether Madame Shen truly believed her or not didn't matter anymore. The lady of the house quickly regained her noble composure, exuding grace and authority as she gave instructions to the house steward. Have someone check through all of Liu Pan's belongings. There was no further mention of her staying in this house. That's just how it is. Unless the knife stabs you personally, you never know how much it hurts. Just moments ago, she was still pretending to be magnanimous. What now? The moment the person under suspicion was someone close to the head of the household, she acted faster than anyone else. Liu Pan, already sensing that disaster was looming, dropped to her knees on the floor, desperately casting glances toward Shen Qiao. Her eyes were full of pleading, hoping Qiao would speak up in her defense. But Shen Qiao hadn't gotten enough of living the high life as a pampered heiress. How could she dare raise her head and look directly at Liu Pan? All she could do was keep her head down, trembling as she silently sobbed and counted grains of rice in her bowl. A few minutes later, the butler returned with several strong men who dragged Liu Pan out of the room without another word. The atmosphere in the dining room turned completely bizarre. I was the only one who continued enjoying dinner as if nothing had happened. Madame Shen occasionally picked food for me, never once glancing at Shen Qiao the entire time. After dinner, the men of the household gradually excused themselves. Facing Shen Qiao's swollen, red eyes, I didn't miss the flash of resentment that flickered through her gaze. I smiled faintly, looking her straight in the eye, completely unbothered. Taking advantage of the moment when no one was watching, I curled my lips into a silent phrase she'd easily understand that was a KO. After that fateful dinner, Madame Shen no longer treated Shen Qiao with the same affection as before. Naturally, the reason couldn't ignore the results of the investigation into Liu Pan. After a thorough search, they found a pile of Mr. Shen's old underwear in Liu Pan's room. How a head chef managed to get her hands on those is still a mystery. Oh, and there was also an entire archive of secretly snapped photos of Mr. Shen, so many they were nearly maxing out her phone's storage. It was obvious she was deeply obsessed. With evidence like that, how could Madame Shen not be furious? As the saying goes, if you see one cockroach in your home, there are probably dozens more hiding in the dark. And so, in a fit of rage, Madame Shen launched a full-scale audit of all the household staff, including longtime employees like Liu Pan. The results were worse than expected. Aside from those eyeing Mr. Shen, there were also some deliberately orchestrating accidental encounters with my oldest and second brother, hoping to spark a whirlwind romance. Some were even scheming to sneak their daughters or nieces into the house to get close to my youngest brother, dreaming of a sweet schoolyard love story come true. So many tactics, none of them repeated. In the end, Madame Shen gritted her teeth and replaced the entire staff, yes, even the butler. As for Mr. Shen, he had frustrations of his own. He never demanded that Madame Shen be some high-flying career woman. All he wanted was for her to manage the household well and provide a warm, peaceful haven where he could unwind after a long day at work. But who would have thought this massive house had turned into a hornet's nest crawling with people spying from every corner? A bunch of hidden demons lurking in the shadows, waiting to pounce. He now even had to worrying about his own damn reputation. In his anger, Mr. Shen started coming home later and later. Of course, none of this had anything to do with me. I was just the good daughter, helping Mom preserve Dad's reputation and protect my brothers. I was the one who exposed all the hidden dangers in this household before they got out of hand. Over the next month, I completely immersed myself in the luxurious lifestyle of the upper class. Madam Shen was actively trying to close the gap between us, taking me to high-end venues, hiring private tutors to teach me music, horseback riding, and countless other skills deemed essential for aristocrats. As the start of the new school year approached, I followed my parents' advice and transferred to an elite private high school, one where every student was born with a silver spoon in their mouth. But the attitude of my classmates toward me wasn't exactly friendly. I calmly wrapped the corpses of a few insects in tissue paper and tossed them into the trash. Shen Qiao was wildly popular at this school. Rumor had it she even had a fan club. I knew that if I didn't make a move soon, these rich brats would just keep escalating their cruel little games. So the very next day, I brought in a large anatomical poster and laid it out flat across my desk. The chart was life-sized, showing every detail of the human body organs, circulatory system, blood vessels all in vivid, blood-red tones. My deskmate, a diehard member of the Shen Qiao fan club who usually avoided speaking to me, finally couldn't hold back. She stared at the image for a long moment, then turned and asked, "Why on earth did you bring that in? Isn't it disturbing?" There was a trace of disdain in her voice, and then she shrugged and added, "Don't tell me you're planning to apply for med school. Someone like you fresh out of the countryside, do you even have the grades for that?" I remained focused on the diagram, casually replying, "No plans to become a doctor. I just figured, since you people seem to be leveling up your tricks lately, I should prepare accordingly." Maybe my words were a bit too blunt, because she froze for a second. "Prepare? What do you mean by that?" she asked. I smiled sweetly, voice as soft as silk. "You're all here studying, sure, but maybe you should keep up with the news once in a while, too." I tapped my phone a few times and slid an article toward her. The headline was bold and eye-catching. "Man stabbed more than 20 times survives because none of the wounds were fatal." Her eyes went wide, pupils trembling like an 8.0 earthquake. She looked at me, then back at the anatomical chart, then at me again, then the chart. Her mouth opened and closed repeatedly, but she couldn't get a word out. Finally, after what felt like forever, she whispered, voice barely audible, "You know that's illegal, right?" I kept my gentle smile, speaking slowly, each word dripping with meaning. "Why is it that you're allowed to bully me, but I'm not allowed to fight back?" She fell silent. I laughed to myself. "Shen Qiao, your fans don't know their place, do they? Didn't you teach them that there are people you simply don't mess with?" "When did we ever bully you?" she finally asked. I raised an eyebrow, lips curling into a faint smile. "Then where did all those insect corpses on my desk come from these past few days? Were they your pets, came here specifically to commit suicide?" I pretended to think for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Oh, I see. So my desk must be some kind of sacred spiritual hotspot, huh? When it comes to verbal sparring, I've never lost to anyone. Today, same as always." I fired back bluntly, not giving her the slightest chance to defend herself. Whether it's bullying or not, we all know the answer deep down. If this continues to escalate, I'll take appropriate measures to ensure my safety. I casually glanced at the anatomy chart again and calmly added, "Don't worry. I'm quite the quick learner. Maybe I'll manage to inflict only non-fatal injuries like in that article." It sounded like a casual remark, but danger practically oozed from every word. My deskmate nearly lost it on the spot. Her gaze toward me was no different from how one might look at a terrorist. Like, if I reached into my backpack, I'd pull out a knife and start practicing right then and there. Who isn't afraid of pain and death? Especially these pampered rich kids, they value their lives more than anyone. Her voice trembled uncontrollably. Aren't you afraid Mr. Shen will hold you responsible? I tilted my head slightly and sneered, hold me responsible for what, exactly? I don't need to explain myself for things that haven't happened. Besides, what I do next depends entirely on you guys. If you know how to behave, then we can all live in harmony, can't we? I even mimicked Shen Qiao's innocent little smile, lips curled up sweetly, eyes sparkling like some harmless bunny. And yet, that only made her even more nervous. She sprang to her feet and bolted out of the classroom, stumbling over herself in panic. I calmly watched her retreating back, then flipped open my textbook and continued reviewing for the next class. That's when I suddenly heard a chuckle from nearby. Oh, now this was getting interesting. Everyone knows where there's a fake heiress, there's always a childhood sweetheart perfectly matched in status and family background. Liu Su was exactly that kind of character. Top braids, a powerful family, noble demeanor. He was the white knight on a pedestal that thousands of girls dreamed of but could never reach. And he certainly didn't disappoint. His eyes were deep, like they held the entire starry sky, enough to make anyone fall for him. The corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile, gentle as a spring breeze, warm as jade, refined and elegant. When he caught my gaze, he smiled sincerely. Hi, I'm Liu Su. I've heard a lot about you. I hope we can get along, but you're not quite what I expected. Get along, completely unnecessary. According to the classic script of real versus fake heiresses, this guy was bound to be closely tied to Shen Qiao before I could even respond. Shen Qiao had already burst into the room and rushed forward, throwing herself in front of Liu Su like a little dog protecting its bone. Tears streamed down her face as she cried out in anguish. Chen Zhaodi, are you trying to ruin the relationship between me and Su again? I don't care if you take everything else, take whatever you want. I don't mind, but Su. Chen Zhaodi, those 3 syllables echoed through the classroom, instantly sparking waves of chatter. What the hell was wrong with this girl? What exactly had I done wrong? Is it somehow my fault I wasn't raised properly, so she thinks she can cause trouble every chance she gets? I let out a cold laugh, my voice ringing out clearly, each word laced with cutting sarcasm. Stealing? I've never heard of someone being called a thief for reclaiming what's rightfully theirs. You really have broadened my horizons today. What's this, a family melodrama right here in class? Chen Zhaodi, that's your real name, isn't it? I'm not the shameless type who takes what belongs to someone else and refuses to return it. My voice was even louder than Shen Qiao's, making sure everyone in the classroom could hear me loud and clear. Every word I said was layered with hidden meaning, sarcasm, provocation, and a deliberate invitation to dig deeper. Sure enough, the class erupted with whispers and chatter, the room suddenly buzzing like a county fair. Everyone was dying to run home and dig into the juicy mystery hidden within the Shen family. I stood calmly, with only one thought in my mind. You still want to go up against me, Shen Qiao? You've got a long way to go. Shen Qiao swayed like a delicate flower in the wind, looking fragile enough to collapse at any moment. But she forced herself to stand tall, placing herself protectively in front of Liu Su as if afraid I might taint her precious man. Ironically, it was Liu Su who gently moved her aside, his tone as calm and refined as ever. Shen Qiao, I was the one who initiated the conversation with Shen Qinglan, and how many times do I have to tell you I am not your property? Su, are you actually going to believe her? Fine, I don't want to play with you anymore. I'm never talking to you again. Shen Qiao stomped her foot like a spoiled child, covered her face with both hands, and ran out of the classroom in tears, trailing a faint scent of perfume behind her. The things she said didn't even follow any logical sequence. Anyone who didn't know the full story would probably think I was the one trying to steal her man. After all, Shen Qiao was a well-known figure at school. When it came to romance, she definitely had the upper hand. And sure enough, I could already feel several strange looks being cast in my direction. Some people clearly bought into her little performance and now assumed I was trying to seduce the school heartthrob. As for Liu Su, his interest only seemed to grow. That glimmer in his eyes carried a hint of amusement as he spoke slowly. Do you want me to clarify things for you? I tilted my chin slightly, a smug smile playing on my lips. There's no need for you to trouble yourself. I can handle it just fine. Did Shen Qiao really think that running away would stop me from clearing my name? Based on her usual tricks, there was at least an 80% chance she hadn't gone far and was still hiding nearby to eavesdrop. I walked up to the podium, turned to face the entire class, and spoke clearly without the slightest hesitation. Since the day I transferred in, your curiosity about my identity has been off the charts. Today, I'm not here to explain or justify anything. I just want to remind everyone, refraining from spreading baseless rumors is the bare minimum standard of decency expected from a high school student. I hope you'll learn to see things with your own eyes and not be led around by the nose. And as for who I am in the Shen family and why I transferred to this school, I smirked, tossing out a casual sentence that hit like a hammer to the brain of every gossip in the room. The answer lies in just 6 words. A wild bird stole the nest. I paused for effect. If you're curious about the details, go home and ask your parents. I'm sure they'll give you a very clear explanation. The Shen family never tried to hide my existence. They just had to delay the public announcement until after the college entrance exams. Besides, even if I explained everything now in perfect detail, there would still be people who think I'm lying. Then why not let them go home and ask their own powerful parents? Only when the truth comes straight from the most official sources will the shock be enough to completely shatter their values. Let them taste what it means to have their worldview collapse. I leisurely twirled the pen between my fingers, my eyes calm and relaxed. I wondered what kind of expression Shen Qiao had on her face while hiding out there, eavesdropping. I bet it was very entertaining. I couldn't wait for tomorrow. The next day, I arrived at the elite private school early, just to fully enjoy the expressions on my classmates' faces, also known as watching the drama unfold. Sure enough, no matter how polished and well-groomed the sons and daughters of the rich looked, they couldn't hide the dark circles under their eyes. The way they looked at me was evasive, awkward, and clearly guilty. The one who took the biggest hit was my seatmate. She used to be a die-hard fan of Shen Qiao and never hesitated to show her disdain toward me. But now, after going home and digging up the truth, she realized her so-called idol had completely fallen from grace. I could pretty much imagine how shattered her beliefs must be right now. Still, she tried to piece together the fragments of her worldview, her cheeks flushing red as she mumbled, "I'm sorry. I want to apologize for how rude I was to you before. Well, I'm a good, kind, and generous girl, so of course I responded with grace." I gave her a gentle smile and said, "It's fine. You didn't know there's no guilt in ignorance. I used to think school was just a place for studying, but I didn't expect that every student would be scrutinized like this." Honestly, there were 2 reasons I didn't say anything earlier. First, with the college entrance exams coming up, I didn't want my personal matters to waste everyone's time. Second, I didn't want anyone to pity me. I'm actually a very proud person. Unfortunately, reality doesn't always let you live the way you want. The more she heard, the more guilty she looked. She quickly shook her head, waving her hands. "No, that's not it at all. We don't feel sorry for you, we really admire you." I let out a soft sigh of relief, pretending to be happy. "Well, in that case, after the exams, you all must come to the Shen family celebration party. I'll make sure to send you invitations." Yes, we'll be there." She nodded eagerly, her attitude growing more and more enthusiastic. If what she felt toward me was guilt and regret, then what Shen Qiao felt was pure hatred, biting, grinding her teeth kind of hatred. This school was a private one, where the next generation of the elite all gathered. Even if they hadn't personally experienced family infighting, they'd seen more than enough of it to recognize the signs. As rumors swirled through the school, the story had twisted into this. I was an orphan adopted by the Shen family who, drunk on luxury and power, was now bullying and humiliating the true eldest daughter of the Shens. It doesn't take a genius to figure out who's behind all of this. But unfortunately for her, I'm still living my best life, and everything is falling into place. My classmates are becoming friendlier by the day. As for Shen Qiao, judging by the worsening look on her face, I guess she's been far too busy dealing with her backstabbing fans to come up with any new schemes against me. Not even a few days later, I witnessed the perfect scene of loyal fans turning on their idol. I stood quietly by the stairwell leading to the rooftop, listening as a group of her former worshippers, led by my seatmate, confronted her. "We treated you like a friend, and you saw us as tools? Ha, no wonder you're a thief's daughter. Lies just roll off your tongue. Do you know what this proves? It proves that low-class blood can't be changed. Shen Qiao, you're filthy at your core. No matter what kind of household raised you, trash will always be trash, and didn't Shen Qinglan already make it clear? Your real name is Chen Jiao Di. You stole someone else's identity, lived in luxury that never belonged to you, and in the end, you even had the nerve to play the victim and slander the rightful heir. Doing something so despicable you're not afraid of being struck by lightning?" My seatmate's tone grew sharper and colder with every word. Their mocking laughter echoed down from the rooftop. Thick with contempt, Shen Qiao tried to fight back. Her voice trembled with injustice. "You used to like me. Why can't you try to see things from my side?" She appeared out of nowhere and completely turned my life upside down. Don't I have the right to feel hurt? My seatmate responded flatly. "So what you're saying is you haven't had enough of the high life yet, and now that the real heiress has returned, you can't stand it." From above, the sneers only grew louder, like icy knives cutting through the air. At that point, I'd had enough entertainment. I quietly turned to leave. But as I reached the next floor down, I ran into Liu Su. He stood lazily by the window, leaning casually, clearly having heard some, if not all, of the drama. As I made to walk past, he lazily raised a hand and waved, "Leaving already?" I stopped in front of him, a rare flicker of curiosity in my heart. "Aren't you going to rescue your childhood friend?" Liu Su chuckled, raising a brow with that effortless indifference. "Come on, our families may be close, but she and I were never childhood sweethearts. And I seriously can't stand girls who cry at the drop of a hat. Oh? So that's how it is, Shen Qiao, it seems you're not as untouchable as you thought." Why was he so quick to distance himself? Isn't he supposed to be the aloof gentleman type? Now he's single-handedly destroying his own carefully crafted image? As if reading my mind, Liu Su smiled lightly, exuding the kind of lazy charm that could bring nations to ruin. "I'm actually quite close with your two older brothers, and I've read plenty of stories about fake heiresses and real ones." He lowered his gaze, a hint of embarrassment in his tone. "I didn't scare you, did I? To be honest, this boy standing in front of me, with his shy eyes and fluttering lashes, was dangerously easy to feel soft for." I forced a reluctant smile. "I'm fine, it's just... your personality caught me off guard. That's all. Up on the rooftop, that noisy bunch could come down at any moment." I wasn't in the mood to linger with Liu Su, so I tossed out a few polite replies and walked off. Not long after I returned to class, Shen Qiao and her group shuffled back in. She clearly looked like she'd been through hell. The silky hair she always took pride in was now messy, her clothes wrinkled. She knew I was watching, but still forced herself into that spoiled rich girl posture, chin lifted even higher than usual. But maybe she forgot after everything. She was no longer the darling everyone once admired. Never underestimate the wrath of betrayed fans, especially when those fans are all pampered sons and daughters of powerful families. Lying to them would only make the backlash even worse. While I used every spare moment to study, Shen Qiao's life turned into pure misery. Every trick she'd used on me in the past was now being turned back against her tenfold. Not that I had anything to say about it. Honestly, I thought it was well-deserved. And yet, I could feel that sharp sensation like a thorn pricking at my back. I paused mid-sentence, slightly turned my head. Her eyes were ice-cold, filled with hatred. She didn't even bother pretending to be innocent anymore. I smirked faintly, the kind of smile that breezes by unnoticed. Slowly, I raised my right hand to cover my mouth and mouthed a few silent words, each one clear as day. Your fans have left you, Shen Qiao Qiao. You still don't get it. In this game, you never stood a chance. Time passed quietly. The college entrance exam was approaching fast. While I buried myself in books, Shen Qiao Qiao showed no concern for it. Instead, she spent her days clinging to Madame Shen, acting all sweet and innocent. And Madame Shen seemed to love every second of it. The scales that had once tipped slightly in my favor were now slowly leaning back toward Shen Qiao Qiao. Aren't you bothered? Bothered about what? I put down my book, tearing my gaze from the page to look at the guy sitting beside me. For some reason, this man showed up at the Shen household every other day, always finding a reason to strike up a conversation with me. If I were any more self-absorbed, I'd probably think he had a secret crush. Liu Su tilted his chin toward Shen Qiao Qiao, gesturing for me to look. She was nestled in Madame Shen's embrace, acting like the perfect little daughter. Madame Shen wore a faintly exasperated smile on her lips, but the indulgence in her eyes practically overflowed. A billion-dollar mother-daughter picture-perfect scene. Liu Su rested his chin on his hand, as innocent like a child's, but the words that came out of his mouth were laced with sarcasm. If I didn't know any better, I'd think Shen Qiao Qiao was your mom's biological daughter. I thought you wouldn't just sit back and let this happen. I didn't even blink. I smiled faintly, begging for love to earn affection? That kind of mother-daughter bond is too cheap for me. From the very first day I stepped into the Shen household, I handed out basic curriculum guides to everyone. Madame Shen didn't even bother to open them. Instead, she insisted on maintaining some kind of balance between me and Shen Qiao Qiao, and to be honest, her favoritism was already starting to show. What else could I do? Of course, I gave them the stage to perform their little drama just as long as they didn't get in the way of my studying. That evening in the living room, as Liu Su and I walked in, we were greeted by Mr. Shen's teasing laughter. You two sure get along well, huh? Before he could finish, Shen Qiao Qiao cut him off, looping her arm around Madame Shen's and smiling sweetly, her eyes glimmering with fake warmth. Maybe Brother Zu's just curious about my sister's past, right, Brother Su? I calmly poured myself a glass of water, answering in Liu Zu's place without haste. Exactly. Not everyone's had the chance to see human traffickers up close before. It's perfectly natural to be curious. The atmosphere froze instantly. Madame Shen gently patted Shen Qiao Qiao's hand, stepping in to defuse the tension. Qinglan, even if you're busy with school, you still need to take care of your health, okay? I looked at her with a smile full of meaning. I couldn't quite tell if her words were directed at me or at Shen Qiao Qiao. Mr. Shen chimed in with a nod. She's right. No matter what, health comes first. Just do your best, whatever the results. I'll have a reward for you. I leaned slightly toward him, my voice soft and full of expectation. Then, if I do really well, will the reward be even bigger? Mr. Shen burst out laughing, clapping his hands. Absolutely. If you get a great score, I'll even give you some shares in the Shen Corporation. How about that? And with that, I understood exactly why I should treat this man well. The old saying was right, where the money is, that's where the love is. He might never give me enough of a father's affection, but he could absolutely give me all the money I wanted. His promise made Shen Qiao Qiao's smile freeze on her face, and even Madame Shen looked visibly uncomfortable. But since Liu Su was present, she couldn't object outright. All she could do was respond vaguely. Shares are an important matter. Let's wait until the results are in before discussing further. Then she turned to me with a falsely gentle tone. I just don't want you to feel too pressured, dear. Whatever she was thinking, I couldn't be bothered to guess. All I knew was when my scores were laid out before her in a month, her expression alone would be enough material to write a full-length psychological novel, joyful yet not entirely happy. Conflicted and complicated. As for Shen Qiao Qiao, With only a few months left before the college entrance exam, all she'd done was compete for Madame Shen's love. Her grades had long since gone into freefall. Now, all she could do was hide in the shadows of the celebration, watching me in seething hatred. Watching me shine, watching me stand beside Mr. Shen, receiving compliments from business partners. Watching me bask in a spotlight she had never known. Mr. Shen, true to his word, had already prepared the share transfer agreement not long after. But on the day I was headed to the Shen Corporation to sign it, my vision suddenly went dark and I lost consciousness entirely. When I opened my eyes again, Shen Qiao was standing in front of me, her smile twisted and unnatural, her entire face warped with jealousy. My hands were bound tightly behind me, my limbs weak, slumped against a corner of the wall. I struggled to steady my breathing, looking up at her, my voice hoarse. Shen Qiao, why would you go this far? Why? She sneered, grabbing my chin and squeezing until her nails dug into my skin, eyes burning with rage. You were headed to sign that damn contract, weren't you? He really planned to give you shares. Why the hell should you get anything? Her voice cracked into a shriek, unhinged. I was the good daughter for over 10 years, and in the end, you get all the benefits. You shouldn't have existed in my life at all. You were swapped away. You should have just waited quietly for death. But no, you came back and now you fight me over everything, little by little. You don't deserve any of this. You're a stray. Strays don't get happy endings. I looked at her madness and gave a cold smile. You're right, someone like me doesn't deserve a happy ending, but... I raised my eyes, the sharpness in my gaze slicing through the air, and spoke slowly. You're even less worthy than me. Shen Qiao became more and more deranged, eyes bloodshot, her teeth grinding as she spat out every word. I'll restore everything to how it should have been. As long as you disappear, everyone will love me again, just like before. With that, she suddenly let go and turned to bark an order at the men who had dragged me here. Her voice was venomous and cold. The money I promised you will be paid in full. But the condition is that this bitch must disappear completely from this city. Sell her to some godforsaken mountain village. Make her give birth over and over again. That's the life she deserves. The men she hired were clearly not good people, burly, thuggish, their eyes filled with filth. They approached me step by step, mouth spewing disgusting words. But the very next second, the door was kicked open with a loud crash. Over a dozen police officers burst in, swiftly subduing the men, slamming them to the ground and cuffing them. Amidst the sound of clashing metal, Shen Qiao's shrill screams echoed in despair. I rolled my sore wrists, still red from the rope burns, and calmly slipped a small dagger back into my pocket. My eyes swept over Shen Qiao with indifference. She was still struggling desperately, fighting a hopeless fight. I told her before, read more reference books. Almost every real versus fake heiress novel has the same plot twist. When cornered, the fake heiress always resorts to kidnapping. So of course I came fully prepared. I had over 80 tracking devices hidden on me. My hired bodyguards were stationed nearby. Every step I took was part of a plan, just waiting for Shen Qiao to jump into the trap. I smiled and waved slowly at the handcuffed Shen Qiao. Now you can reunite with your birth mother in prison. How does it feel? Happy? Bitch, you set me up. Shen Qiao screamed in rage, veins bulging on her forehead, shrieking like a madwoman. But I was generous enough not to stoop to her level. After all, she was already a piece removed from the chessboard. At that moment, a calm voice cut in. Don't provoke her any further. Let me check if you're hurt. Like a breeze, Liu Su appeared in front of me, with my older brother right behind him, face full of worrying. The two of them quickly examined me from head to toe, only relaxing when they confirmed I was unharmed. Still, Liu Su suggested, it's already late tonight. Go to the hospital for a full checkup tomorrow, just in case. The peaceful atmosphere on our side felt like the sharp knife stabbing Shen Qiao's heart. She thrashed wildly, tears streaming down her face, howling in anguish. Big brother, Suje, I know I was wrong. Please forgive me this once. Give me another chance." My brother stayed silent. Liu Su didn't even glance at her. He looked straight at the police and spoke in an upright tone. "Officer, we're all law-abiding citizens. We don't cover up for criminals. Take her away." My brother gently pushed my back. His voice was calm. "Let's go home." I raised an eyebrow and smiled faintly. Just as I expected, there was still a dramatic scene waiting back home. Sure enough, I sat on the sofa, calmly watching as Madame Shen sobbed bitterly. Her voice was full of sorrow I never imagined. I raised her for over 10 years, and it turns out I wasn't even worth more than a loyal dog. What did I ever do to deserve this kind of betrayal? As a mother, I tried my best to treat Qiao and Qinglan fairly. I can face my conscience with no shame. And yet Qiao, she did this to me. She cried for a long time, but received no comforting words from me. Lifting her red-rimmed eyes, she looked at me with a trembling voice. "Qinglan, why aren't you saying anything? Don't tell me you're blaming me too?" I looked at her, calm and emotionless. "Yes, I am blaming you." Madame Shen was stunned, as if she couldn't believe her ears. You really blame me too?" I'd been exhausted the entire day. I didn't have the energy to perform some fake mother-daughter love scene with her. So I decided to speak plainly. "You said you treated us both fairly. But don't you know that the fairness you talk about is the greatest injustice of all? Why was I switched at birth all those years ago? You and Dad must bear part of the responsibility, don't you? It was your carelessness that forced me to endure over 10 years of suffering. And in the end, I'm treated like a thief who stole someone else's life. I'm put on the same level as the daughter of a human trafficker. Are you telling me a joke?" From the very first day I returned to the Shen family, I said it clearly. I would never see Shen Qiao as my sister. But you didn't listen. You brushed off my words like wind past your ears. I'm a practical person. You could have given me a lot of money to compensate for the pain I endured. Or you could have given me a lot of love to make up for all the emotional emptiness I'd been through, but you didn't want to spend a dime on me. You even tried to stop Dad from transferring the Shen family shares to me. In your eyes, you just wanted me and Shen Qiao to be like two obedient dogs, wagging our tails and begging for scraps of your pity. Who gave you the right to do that, and why should I accept it? Do I look that pathetic to you? I turned and walked upstairs without hesitation, leaving behind a room drowned in silence. The next day, Mr. Shen came to find me, his attitude sincere. He expressed his desire to make up for the past and promised to give me even more shares of the Shen Corporation. Of course, I had no reason to refuse such a good offer. After signing the paperwork, I stepped outside and met Madame Shen's ambiguous gaze. She hesitated for a long time before finally speaking in a low voice. "Qinglan, I know I was wrong. Can you give me another chance?" I looked at her calmly, my eyes void of emotion, and slowly opened my mouth. "I can treat you normally, but I can't act out some deep, affectionate mother-daughter scene with you like Shen Qiao used to. People say once love is broken, it's hard to mend. I think family is the same." I walked straight ahead, while behind me came the sound of her sobbing, full of regret. I never expected a mother's love, no I used to. But the moment I witnessed her favoritism and blind foolishness, my hope completely died. With the ticking time bomb named Shen Qiao finally gone, my summer became incredibly peaceful. Not long after, the final verdict was announced. Shen Qiao was sentenced to 15 years in prison, just enough time to be with her biological mother, who received 20 years. On August 30th, I said goodbye to the Shen family. Dragging my suitcase behind me, I boarded a plane to the capital, opening a brand new chapter in my life. Now, the path before me was wide open. Whatever I desired was within reach. Resting my chin on my hand, I quietly gazed at the sky outside the window. At that moment, a familiar voice rang by my ear. What a coincidence, my little lady, and that's the end of today's video. And once again, all content in this video is entirely fictional. Please do not take it too seriously or consider it real. And that wraps up today's storytime video. Valve thanks you all so much for supporting this content. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more storytelling videos from Valve. See you next time.